Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Glue Stick channel. Time to revisit the viewer request list, and today we're talking about Hellhounds. I know this comes right after the video about Lupins. I guess we're on dog week this week. The Hellhound was introduced to the game in its first supplement, Greyhawk, in 1975, and they have been included in the Monster Manual for every D&D edition since then, and are in the Monster Manual for 5th edition as well. They've always been monstrous canines that attack in packs and have the power to breathe fire. I consider creatures with the Hellhound's particular set of abilities to be one of the monsters most likely to murder an entire party of adventurers if they catch them unprepared for just how vicious a fight the Hellhounds bring to the table. The appearance of Hellhounds is variable, not just between the different depictions and descriptions through the various editions of the game, but because initially we were told they resemble a mangy, skinny, somewhat demonic hyena-like creature with red eyes and draconic ears, but they're variable because they come from or are native to various different planes of existence. So the Hellhounds of the Nine Hells are not exactly like those of the Peaks of Flame in Chult, or the ones native to the elemental plane of fire, or the many different kinds of Hellhounds from the infinite layers of the abyss. Hellhounds get around is what I'm saying. They're swift-moving predators that roam widely and are highly effective killers. If wandering the barren wilderness of Avernus, a pack of Hellhounds will most likely track you down by scent and hear your location before they can actually see you. They will split up and move outwards and then close in from different directions. So whatever direction you're moving in, they will run in. You'll run into a couple of them coming right at you. At this point, you can choose to run, in which case they will give chase and you will soon have the entire pack close in on you from every direction you're running, and some will flank in from the sides. Or you can stand and fight, in which case the Hellhounds in front of you will act mainly to delay and avoid closing in until the rest of the pack arrives, at which point you're in severe trouble. More than one adventurer has managed to kill a couple of Hellhounds and relax their guard long enough to inspect the corpses, just to have them ambushed and torn to pieces suddenly as all the other Hellhounds arrive to kill them. Hellhounds have two signature abilities. The first is pack tactics, when they gain advantage on attack rolls against a creature if at least one of the Hound's allies was within 5 feet of the creature and that ally isn't incapacitated. Also note, this doesn't say the ally has to be another Hellhound, so they are, if they're travelling with a couple of fire giants or accompanied by some quasits or imps, particularly invisible imps, because they can still count even if the player characters have not seen them yet. That is some very nasty tactics though, completely logical but quite unfair. Clever players will no doubt figure it out though, particularly if chunks of meat enchanted with healing properties keep appearing out of nowhere in the encounter area, and the invisible imp takes a non-aggressive, non-spellcasting action to simply drop items while they remain invisible. It's a recipe for a fun fight, I can tell you. This sort of tactic favours two things: using terrain to restrict the prey's movements, and moving as a team to ensure the players are always faced with more than one hound at a time. One great way to restrict movement is walls and patches of fire, and the second signature trait of the Hellhound is their ability to breathe a 15-foot cone of fire. Here's a depiction of a 15-foot cone of fire, just to give you some idea of how to arrange that on a gridded surface, but otherwise you can just use a cone template or just a rough guide. If you have a piece of string which is approximately 15 feet long for whatever scale that you're using your miniatures or terrain on, you can use that, but generally speaking, you can sort of wing it. Each creature in that area must make a DC 12 dexterity saving throw, taking 21 or 6d6 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. A 15-foot blast of fire, I should point out, is a plume of very hot gas, thus it has some force behind it. While I'd hesitate to give this enough force to knock down a character that was hit point blank from very close range, I still don't see anything wrong with Hellhounds using their breath weapon to blast through a thin wooden door, immolate a curtain or a patch of shrubs and branches, set some tall grass on fire, burn away the wooden support beams of a bridge or a mine shaft, set fire to a wagon, burn through the ropes holding a cage of rabbit wombats or pygmy razorbacks, releasing absolute mayhem when the cages drop and spill out a snarling swarm of teeth, tusks and claws. Absolutely. Make good use of that flame ability, as they certainly would, because they can breathe flame their entire lives. Chasing down prey is a fun activity for Hellhounds. They'll usually make a sport out of it if they're prey that they're that they're chasing, they are fairly certain that they've got the upper hand against, breathing gouts of flame to either hurry their sport along and tire it out, or cut off its path of escape, or to overwhelm it before the pack closes in for the kill. Because you can't see through a plume of fire any more so than anything else, so it's quite effective in that regard as well. Their teeth are monstrously arranged in a very powerful jaw, plus the black flesh of their mouth and tongue is very tough. It may be that the gas that they exhale is ignited by their white-hot fangs, which inflict horrific, deep sizzling wounds with every bite, as though the body has been punctured with burning phosphorus. The entire body of a hellhound is completely immune to fire, and of course they can run across the surface of Nessus, splashing a trail through the rivers of lava, and this elemental fire burns within them, so they're not really bothered by cold environments any more so than you or I are. Their tough flesh, leathery hide, short rust brown fur and reasonable agility all combine to give them a natural armor class of 15, and they have an average of 45 hit points, with a swift 50 feet of movement each round, so they can chase down almost any humanoids. Plus, their keen sense of hearing and smell gives them advantage on those perception checks, along with a lifetime of practice detecting, tracking, and chasing down their prey. Unofficially, the populations of fully wild and primal hellhounds is largest in the elemental plane of fire, where they often get into scraps with rasts and other native creatures there. The hellhounds of the abyssal layers come in a multitude of shapes and sizes. Some of them are more poisonous than incendiary, with a great deal of horrific mutations, as you'd expect from the abyssal environment. But they still operate in packs, despite the chaotic nature of the places they roam through. They would be more numerous there if it wasn't for the drastic attrition that the demons inflict on their population. Demons tend to kill things, but it's not unheard of to have a more self-controlled demon make use of abyssal hounds, though they're not as skilled in the breeding and trading of hellhounds as the fire giants, who, as you'd expect, breed from the largest and most loyal hellhounds, resulting in some truly formidable beasts who the giants keep as prized pets and hunting hounds. The devils, though, are the real masters of breeding and training them, though. As you'd expect, they breed the most capable, cunning, and vicious hellhounds who are smart enough to withstand the environment and to understand the infernal language of the devils, but they can't speak it. It's known that the hellhounds that are bred specifically by Asmodeus in the Abyss, for instance, are 7 feet high at the shoulder. All hellhounds are at least as intelligent as a very smart dog or wolf. They don't forget their prey that has escaped them, or a master who has abused them, and they are always in the mood for making something scream in torment as they kill it, because they're monsters. Infernal hellhounds stand 4.5 feet tall on average at the shoulder and weigh at least 120 pounds at least. They have a distinct odour of smoke and sulphur, and their glowing eyes actually emit small flickering flames. Plus, even when not breathing fire, their breath is like exhaling cigarette smoke. The baying sounds that they make when they're chasing down their prey has a distinctive eerie hollow tone that can send a shiver through the soul of anyone who hears it and knows the sounds of the hounds is them hunting after them. When they are close in, they tear out the hamstrings and rip open the bowels of their prey to spill the guts out. Their bites are +5 to hit, have a 5-foot reach, do 1d8 +3 piercing damage and 2d6 fire damage, and they have a +5 bonus to perception checks in general and 60-foot dark vision. The diet of hellhounds is similar to that of a normal canine, depending on their environment. An established pack of up to 20 hounds will roam in a wide area of 5 to 15 square miles centered on their den. This is usually within the plane of fire, or when they're roaming free across Nessus or Avernus. Pack territories may overlap, and the packs will tend to avoid each other, or they'll get into fights to the death, typically around mating season. They don't reproduce very often, at least not on the prime material plane, and pups are born in litters of 2 to 8. They burp flame uncontrollably at least once a day, but the flames are mostly harmless until they grow to adulthood in about a year, and they grow to full adult size in a year as well. And they tend to, you need to train them from birth, or they'll accept no master. Even those that have been chained up and left for weeks to guard an area are likely to turn feral pretty quickly. Prey is usually eaten where it's slain, though hellhounds occasionally haul a carcass back to their den for later meals, particularly if there's pups there. They are smart creatures, and they know what a bag of treasure is, and they understand that a sufficient pile of loot will actually bring prey to them. So there's usually some loot in the lair, and you would be amazed at what you can find in the pile, as the hellhounds have absolutely no use for it. Of course, you can kiss goodbye to any scrolls, books, and slender wooden wands, plus wooden treasure chests will eventually burn and spill their contents in or around the den, because hellhounds breathe fire all the time. Be careful when including Hellhounds in your encounters though, particularly with how many of them the player characters have to contend with. The number of enemies plays a much more crucial part in the overall deadliness of combat in D&D 5th edition. It's something that challenge rating alone can't account for. You have to really gauge that. If you want to lean on the side of caution, just increase the number of interesting problems that terrain can throw at players, with chasms and rope bridges, boulders held back by piles of wood, thickets of dry scrubs, pits covered in planks, smoke clouds, choking fumes, monsters leaping out of the increasingly dense fumes. They can be deadly enough as they are, with the simple addition of more individuals to the pack, even to high-level characters, particularly if the Hellhounds start locking on with their jaws and restraining targets while the rest of the pack simply barbecues the entire area. And don't forget, if you're dealing with a large area, the pack will have spread out over that area, and it's typically common for them to have more Hellhounds arrive in subsequent rounds of combat once they hear that something's going on. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If in either case, share it with your group of friends and tell them what you thought of it. Tell me what you would do to best use the flame breath of a Hellhound to add interesting effects to your combat encounter. Share your innovation with the fans of the flames. I'm particularly interested in everything you guys get to inform me about, because I like to use the stuff that you guys tell me about in my games as well. Feel free to check out the merch on the store. There's some snazzy attire, mugs, and even, yes, doggy bandanas. If you love what I do, subscribe and perhaps consider becoming a patron of the channel on Patreon. How much you contribute is entirely up to you and has some nice perks, such as seeing the vids before everyone else does and being able to request content from me directly. Also, check out the daily game deal on Chrono, a new discount and game every day. As always, thanks for listening. I'll be back with more for you again very soon.